Are you a beginner photographer, or maybe you've been doing photography for a while and you keep making beginner mistakes? Well, I'm Dominic Hartman with Endless Souls Photography, and we are going to be going over 5 beginner mistakes that I think will be able to help you out. Intro. So obviously there's more than 5 beginner mistakes. There's a whole list of them. I could literally go on forever talking about different mistakes that we make as photographers, as amateurs and even as professionals. But I would bore you with 30 minutes to maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 hours. It could go on forever, but we're not going to do that. So I want to go over the top 5 beginner mistakes that I think will help you become a better photographer. So the first beginner mistake is very important. I've done it multiple times, especially as a beginner photographer, and that is always having a dead battery or always forgetting your memory card at home in the card reader. When I first started, I had like 2 batteries. I wouldn't charge them. I was like, oh, I can make these last, and I would always come with dead batteries. It's always the worst when you show up to a photo shoot. Now if you're out just shooting landscape, then it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm not shooting any landscape stuff today because I brought dead batteries or I didn't bring a memory card. But when you're doing photo shoots of clients, it is very practical that you always have charged batteries and make sure you have the right memory cards and stuff like that, because you don't want to pull a me and show up to a photo shoot without your memory card and having to drive a half an hour to go pick it up and then come all the way back, and your client is sitting there waiting and you just look bad. So what I like to do, even if I'm going to like a 30-minute session, I always make sure that I have at least 3 batteries that are fully charged, because you never know. You might get there and the battery ends up dying, or you forget your other battery at home on the charger, or whatever the case is. I would rather have extra batteries than not enough. And with your memory card, you want to make sure, I have a little case. I showed it in what's in my camera bag. It's just a little gray pouch that has some memory card slots. I keep like 3 or 4 of those, and they're different gigabytes, because there are times where I'll leave for a photo shoot and I leave my memory card in my card reader and I forget it. So always make sure that you have spare memory cards, so that way you're not going to a photo shoot without it and having to drive all the way home. Or if you're going out of town, then you're kind of out of luck there. So yeah, extra batteries, extra memory cards, always keep them in your bag. That's going to be the first one. So the second mistake that a lot of beginners make is not shooting in RAW. Now, the importance of RAW is that when you are editing your photos, whether you put them into Lightroom or wherever you edit your photos, when you edit those photos, it takes some of the image data and lowers the quality. So if you're shooting in JPEG is already a low format, and so it's just going to lower the quality even more. So you won't get the best quality of photos. But when you're shooting in RAW, it gives you the most data, so it's easier to work with. Now, if you just shoot photos and you don't need to edit or anything, then I guess it's whatever. But I prefer to shoot my stuff in RAW because I edit. Shooting in RAW gives you greater flexibility when you're editing your photos. So make sure shoot in RAW. The third mistake I would say is overexposed. Now, when you're shooting, you kind of want to have like the perfect balance, just because that'll make it a lot easier when you are editing. You won't have to do as much edits because you'll kind of have the brightness where you want it. If you don't know whether your photos are perfectly exposed or overexposed or underexposed, there is a histogram in most digital cameras, so you'll have to look in your manual to figure out how to get to that, and it'll show pretty much, it's like a little graph, it's like a mountain. So if the spikes are all the way to the left, then that means that your photos are underexposed, and if it's all the way to the right, then it's going to be overexposed. You want to make sure that that histogram has kind of like a nice even flow to it. So maybe I'll do a video on showing different details of the camera and how it will help you as well. Make sure that you don't overexpose, because it's a lot harder to bring your highlights down than it is to bring your shadows up. So make sure you kind of have that nice even flow, and you'll be good to go. It'll make editing so much easier. Which brings us to our next mistake, is over editing. And I can't stress this enough. I have over edited so many times in my life, especially as a beginner. I would bump up the contrast, I would bump up the saturation, and as a beginner, you kind of just don't know what you're doing, and it looks okay to you. But then when you get a little bit further down the road, learn more about editing and stuff, you look back on your old photos and you're like, what was I thinking? That was absolutely terrible. I think subtle touches are very good. You know the saying, a little goes a long way. I mean, there are certain things that you can do to over edit photos and still make them look good, but just don't turn your contrast all the way up like I did, because it'll look cartoonized. It was funny because I over contrasted my stuff a lot when I was a beginner, and so it kind of made it look cartoonish. So I did kind of like this cartoon look for quite a while until I decided that it was not cool. It did not look good at all. So yes, make sure that you don't over edit your photos, and if you do, then maybe you'll get somebody that likes the over edits, maybe. What I do is I have a preset that I normally use for all my photos, and I will slap my preset on there and then raise or lower the highlights a little bit, raise or lower the shadows, maybe bump up the saturation just like a smidge, and then maybe warm up the photo or cool it down depending on what vibe I'm going for. Other than that, I pretty much just use the blur tool to kind of blur out the background a little bit more, and then I also kind of darken the background just a little bit more than the subject, just so that way it kind of makes the subject pop out more. But other than that, that's all the edits I really do. I know I've been telling you that I'm going to be doing an editing tutorial, and I will get to it. My laptop has actually been running a little bit faster. I don't know what I did to it. I'm not huge on technology, which is kind of terrible because I am a photographer and we use technology every day. But I'm learning. So whatever I did, it's making my laptop run a little bit faster. So hopefully soon I'll be able to do a tutorial. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, let's get on to the last mistake. So now the last mistake, it's not really a big deal, especially if you're not looking to do photography like professionally, if you just kind of want to go out and shoot photos. But if you do want to go with a more professional look, make sure you shoot in manual. Now I know as a beginner, you don't know what you're doing. You probably have never heard of ISO, shutter speed, or aperture. If you do want to learn about those, I will leave the link in the description for my video on that, so you can go ahead and learn it. But yes, if you want to be more professional, make sure you shoot in manual. And it's okay to shoot in auto for a while, especially as a beginner. How I learned is I shot in auto, and then I would go through and look at the different settings that I had for different shots. Like, so if I was outdoors, I would, take an outdoor shot, and then I would look at my settings to see where they were at, and then I did like more of a darker place and kind of seeing how that was. Then I really started looking into how to control everything, and once you get it all dialed in, you're gonna be flipping through it like easy. As professionals, we want to make sure that we look professional. So if you're over here, bring your camera and you claim you're a professional, and clients hire us to do professional work, and you're just like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing, at least make sure you act and look like you know what you're doing. Now, if you are like a beginner, you can always say, hey, look, I'm a beginner, and so they will, it's kind of like okay, he's a beginner, he doesn't really know what he's doing, but we're gonna give him a chance, or her, if you're. So Anyways, I don't know what I was going on about, but make sure that you're shooting in manual so that way you look a little bit more professional and you feel more professional. Obviously, clients won't really know if you're shooting everything on auto or not. They're not going to look at your settings, but to me, I think shooting in manual, your photos come out a little bit better because you kind of know what you're doing. Auto, it works, but it's, in my opinion, not the best. So those are my 5 top beginner mistakes. If you want to see more beginner mistakes, maybe I'll do another video on some more mistakes that we do as beginners and even professionals. I say that they're beginner mistakes. Even as professionals, we still make those mistakes as well. If there's professionals out there that don't make those mistakes, then cool for you. Teach me your ways because I always make mistakes. Not always, I shouldn't say always, but there are times where I'm just like, wow, I feel like a beginner. So if you found this video helpful, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and turn on those notifications so you get notified every single time I post. And until next time, we will see you in the next video. Peace. Wow, it's been a while since I've done video, and I felt like that was my first time doing a video. Oh, I really need to start doing more video because I just felt like a beginner shooting that. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Now, sorry, ADHD moment. Brain dead.